Hi there folks. So this is the second video in my short series of videos on presenting of data. In this video we are looking at bar charts. So bar charts are similar to line graphs, which we saw in our previous video. They're a good way to clearly demonstrate what your data looks like, to see which groups have the largest number of people or things in it, which groups occurs the most often, and we can use them to calculate a couple of things. Okay, so we've got here is another survey example. Okay, we're looking at shoe sizes of students in a school. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to see, well, what is my biggest number here? Okay, it's 4. All right, so now something to be aware of when you're doing a bar chart, you don't necessarily need to go from 1 to, sorry, I said 4, I meant 8, okay? You don't need to go from 1 to 8, okay? It's not that important for this graph on the x-axis. Often we would, but you don't have to, okay? So I'm gonna have 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm gonna have 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, okay? Now, actually, that looks a bit... Hi folks, so this is our second video now looking at presentation of data, and in this one we're going to be looking at bar charts. Bar charts are similar to line graphs in that they're a very good way to demonstrate what your data looks like. Hi folks, so in this video we're going to be looking at more presentation of data. Our second video here is looking at the topic of bar charts. Bar charts are similar to line graphs, which you saw in our previous video, in that they can clearly show which groups are the largest, which values are occurring the most often in a survey, and they allow us to calculate certain things from them, but not everything, okay? But they are still quite useful, okay? They can be particularly useful when looking at categorical data. All right, so first things first, we've got our in this survey, we're looking at the shoe size of students in a school. So we've got the shoe size of the students and the number of students of that shoe size. All right. So on the bottom, or the x-axis, we're going to put our shoe size. So 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. No, I don't start at 0. I don't need to on the x-axis. On the y-axis, or we need to look, what is our largest number? Okay, our largest number on the y-axis, that's the number of students, and this is the y-axis here, is 10. Okay, so the biggest value this will go to is 10. I often like to try and go one above because I just think it looks slightly nicer. But we want to make sure that we're filling as much of this graph as possible. So even with respect to the size of this graph, I could have drawn this a little bit bigger, but for the purpose of this video, as I chose, this was a good size. I don't want to see people doing like small little things up here in the corner. That's stupid. It's a waste of time. It loses your marks. It looks terrible. And it's much harder to read the graph because it's so small, and you're more likely to make a mistake. So make sure that your graph is nice and big and spread out. So we need to put the values up here. Now we do have to start with 0 on the y-axis. Okay, that is important. Okay, for any graphs that you're doing for during your cycle, you'd be always wanting to start at 0 on the y. You'll often start with 0 on the x, but you don't necessarily have to, depending on what your survey is about. Okay, so now I want to go even number of spaces. That's also important. You have to have an equal gap between each value. I had an equal gap here of 2 boxes, and I'm going to do the same here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So now it's quite simple. We for each category, we just go along here and we go. So we've got, in this case here, shoe size 4, there were 4 students. So we are going to, starting off here with the 4 is, draw a line up until I get to the 4 on the y-axis. Okay. And I do the same again. Note, use a ruler. Okay, and there you go. All right, now we had 8 students that were size 5. So starting off, drawing a nice clean straight line until we get up to 8, and then coming back down again. All right, and there you go. We had 10 students that had a size 6. This could be maybe a girls' school, or it could be an all-boys primary school based on the shoe sizes. All right. 6 students were a size 7. And 2 students were size 8. And there is our bar chart. Now, a couple of things to note. It's actually not that likely that you'll be ever asked to draw one of these. You could be in an exam, but they're more likely to ask you to draw different types of graphs to a bar chart. But you need to know how to draw them, because if you know how to draw them, you know how to read them. And that's the important thing. You are very likely to get questions where they give you a bar chart and ask you to find information from it. So the kind of questions that they might ask, and they could ask you, here's a bar chart. They don't give you this table, they just give you the bar chart. So the first thing they might ask you is, well, what's the number of students? Okay, well, how could we get that? Very simple. You look at the number on the top of each of the columns of your bar chart. So we've got 4, 8, 10. Oh dear, I made a mistake there. I had that gone up to 7 for size 7 instead of 6. Very important when we watch these things. No one's perfect, even me. 6 and 2. So we can simply add these up. 4 plus 8 plus 10 plus 6 plus 2. Now, I know you're saying, but sir, it says it there. This is if the table wasn't here, how you'd use the bar chart. So 4 plus 8 is 12, plus 2 is 22, plus 6 is 28, plus 2 is 30 students. Okay? Next thing they might ask us is, well, what's the mode? Okay, the mode is the value which occurs the most common. Well, 10 students were size 6, so 6 is the mode, okay? Not 10, 6, all right? Another thing I might ask you is, where do you just think your median value would be, okay? So median is in the middle value. So if we had these in order, so we had 4 size 4, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you don't have to do this, but I'm showing you how we would, okay? There's 8 size 5s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 sixes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 6 sevens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's 2 8s, 1 and 2. So when you got your values in order like this, the median is the middle value, okay? Looking at this, I would say size 6 is the middle, okay? And we're going to check that now, okay? So if I just start crossing out from the ends, okay? And this is only one way to do this, by the way. There's lots of ways to do this, which I'll be showing in class and in other videos. And I'm only going to finish. You can see we're actually at 6. So the median is 6. Now, if they ask me for my mean, that would be trickier to do on a bar chart, because mean is you add up all your numbers and divide by the total number of numbers. Okay, so for that it would be 4 by 4 plus 5 by 8 plus 6 by 10, 7 by 6 plus 8 by 2 divided by 30. Which you could do, but it's not as easy. Okay, so as I said, there are other graphs types which are better at doing some of this stuff than others. Median and mean. Median you can estimate pretty accurately from a bar chart. Mode you can get straight away. Mean is a bit trickier, okay? Also, another great thing about bar chart is the shape of our distribution, okay? We always want in statistics to have a nice bell curve, and this is very clearly illustrated with bar charts. Line graphs are similar to this. Bar charts are great for showing the shape of the distribution. If we had lots of really high columns here and then it goes down, it was tailing off this way, or lots of really high columns here and tailing off this way, then our data is what we call non-normal data, which means it's not going to, the means, the medians, and modes are going to be different from each other by sometimes a lot, and it's harder to analyze statistically. In stats, you always want a nice smooth bell curve, okay? So this is the other thing that's great about bar charts. So what are they great for again? They can tell us the total sample size, the number of people in our survey, our population. We can immediately get the mode, we can estimate the median, and we can get the shape of our distribution. So there you go, folks. There is my video on bar charts. Okay, I'll be doing a few more in a while, but keep up the good work, everybody. Thanks. Bye.